Please find your seats as the banquet program is about to begin. We would like to welcome Mechanchais from the United States joining us from 75 cities in Arizona, California, our host state of Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, Missouri, Nevada, Consiva Hashem Sabracha, Crown Heights, and the entire state of New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, Wisconsin. A special welcome to the international Mechanchais, joining us all the way from our neighbors up north, Alberta, Canada, Ontario, Canada, Quebec, Canada. Joining us from down under, Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, Australia. Mechanchais in Europe from Nice, France, Milan, Italy. Mechanchais from Eretz HaKodesh, Yerushalayim, where we hope to all be by the end of the evening. And a special shout out to our online participants from across the globe, including Manchester, England, Panama City, Panama, and Johannesburg, South Africa. We welcome Mechanchais spreading the light of Chabad Chinuch all over the world.
Good evening. Please turn your attention to the video screens.
We would like to welcome Machanchais from the United States joining us from 75 cities in Arizona, California, our host state of Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, Missouri, Nevada, Consiva Hashem Sabracha, Crown Heights, and the entire state of New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, Wisconsin. A special welcome to the international Machanchais, joining us all the way from our neighbors up north, Alberta, Canada, Ontario, Canada, Quebec, Canada. Joining us from down under, Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, Australia. Machanchais in Europe from Nice, France, Milan, Italy. Machanchais from Eretz HaKodesh, Yerushalayim, where we hope to all be by the end of the evening. And a special shout out to our online participants from across the globe, including Manchester, England, Panama City, Panama, and Johannesburg, South Africa. We welcome Machanchais spreading the light of Chabad Chinuch all over the world.
Wait, I'm making that announcement. Shh. Please pay attention to the screens for a special video presentation.
Welcome to the Kina Samachanchais 5784. Chinuch with joy. Yankel is surrounded by his wife, 3 children, and his nurse. He is in his final moments, and he's addressing them for the last time. He turns to his oldest son, and he says, Zalman, I want you to take all the houses in Beverly Hills. Yassel, take the apartments over in West LA. Gittel, I want you to take the offices in Century City. And Sarah, my dear wife Sarah, take all the residential buildings downtown. The nurse is just blown away. She turns to the wife and says, Mrs. Schwartz, your husband must have been such a hard-working man to have accumulated so much property. She looks back at her and says, property? My husband has a seltzer delivery route. Unlike Yankel, Chinuch is not just a seltzer route, a job that we do day in and day out. Chinuch is truly our wealth. We're so lucky to be in this position. But what does it mean to be mechanech with joy? Where do we find joy in Chinuch? I was in the 5th grade. It was 9 a.m., and we were all lined up outside the classroom, ready to enter. And in those days, we had some serious 5th grade girl drama going on. And our class was divided into 2 groups. That morning, the insults were flying in both directions. And I don't even remember what she said, but one girl said something to me that really stung. I remember that my cheeks were growing warm, and I was sure everyone could see me blushing. I felt that lump growing in my throat, and I knew that I would cry at any second, and I just had to hide. So I ran back into the classroom, and in that moment, I felt so hurt that I just wanted to go home. Still holding the tears in, I grabbed my coat and my backpack. Just then, my teacher walks in, and seeing me, she says, Chinuch, what's wrong? I couldn't even answer her. I just burst into tears. Now, I was thoroughly mortified. Crying in front of the teacher, that was next level. I just wanted to disappear, and I couldn't imagine how she would react. But my teacher came over to me, and she gave me such a warm hug. I felt like it lasted for a really long time, but in reality, I'm sure it was just a couple of seconds. I remember feeling so cared for and loved, so seen and validated, that suddenly staying in school that day didn't seem so bad after all. I wiped my tears and I squared my shoulders and I walked back out to join my friends. Almost 24 years later, the memory of my teacher comforting me in that moment still warms my heart. Recently, I reached out to this teacher, Mrs. Chani Herzl, currently the principal of Nigri Jewish Online School. And I asked her if she remembered this happening. Not surprisingly, she did not. She had no idea what that hug meant and would continue to mean to that little girl who was having a hard day. When we think back to our childhood, which teachers are the ones that when we think about them, there's a sparkle around them? We feel a warmth in our hearts. I know for me, it's not the ones necessarily with the gorgeous bulletin boards or with the most amazing prizes in the prizes store, although those are great too. It's those teachers that I felt truly cared about me, truly loved me. They saw me in a positive light. Those are the ones that live in my mind all these years later. I remember my teacher in 4th grade, after davening, she would often tell me the same exact compliment. Chinuch, when you daven, it's with a chayas. Till today, I often hear those words playing in my head when I'm davening. Every person walking this earth is looking for fulfillment. We all want to feel like we matter and that we have an impact on other people. We, the nurturers of the next generation, have this ultimate sense of fulfillment in our shluchos every single day when we walk into our classroom. With that one pat on the back or that little compliment that you didn't even think twice about, these are the things that impact our students and even change how they see themselves years down the line. And as Yidden and Hasidim, we take this a step further. Not only is there a deep sense of fulfillment in knowing that we are shaping lives, but we know that we're part of a bigger picture. We are raising a generation of Hasidim. We are filling up these children with light. We are filling up the world with light. We are bringing Mashiach. This, to me, is chinuch with joy. How can I not be filled with joy and excitement knowing I'm in this holy position impacting the next generation? Look around this room. We are surrounded by hundreds of the most powerful people on earth. We are changing the world. And as we feel this joy and excitement, naturally it pours onto our students so they too can feel the joy in the chinuch that we give them. So l'chaim to all of us, we should feel this passion and this joy in our holy work. Tonight, we will bring and inspire each other as we take this joy back to our students. I'd like to call upon Chaim Mishkalubin to please lead us in the Rebbe's Kapitel. Please rise.
Wow. Okay. Shir hamale selacha nasasi esenai hayashri bashamayim. Kinecha ene avadim el yad adenehem, ke ene shifcha el yad gevirta, kena ninu el adenai elhenu ad she chaninu. Chaninu adenai chaninu ki rav savanu vos. Rabba savala nafshenu halag hashananim habos legeinim. And for the Robertson's Kapitel. Shir hamalis David lule Adonai shaya lanu yaimar na Yisrael. Lule Adonai shaya lanu bekam alinu adam. Azai chayim belaunu bacharis apam banu. Azai hamayim shatafunu nachla avar al nafshenu. Azai avar al nafshenu hamayim hazedenim. Baruch Adonai shalai nesananu taraf lishenehem. Nafshenu ketipar nimlata mipach yagshema pach nishbar vanachnu nimlatnu. Azrinu b'shem Adonai aisei shemayim varetz.
תודה רבה למורות היקרות שהן מחזקות את הבנות בכל מצווה, אם זה בצניעות ואם זה בכל מצווה קטנה, הפרשת חלת, דלקת נרות, כל דבר הוא חומת מגן ושמירה על החיילים שלנו. תודה רבה לכם, אנחנו כאן זקוקים לתפילות שלכם.
ותודתי הענקית על כל פועלכם, על כל מה שאתם עושים למען עמנו. אנחנו כגוף אחד, בלב אחד.
אני רוצה להודות לכם על כל המעשים הטובים והמצוות שאתם עושים למען עם ישראל ולמען החיילים והחטופים, ואנחנו מבקשים שתמשיכו לעשות טוב ותתפללו על כל עם ישראל ועל ארץ ישראל, שכל החיילים יחזרו בריאים ושלמים, וגם כל החטופים אנחנו מחכים שיחזרו מהר בריאים ושלמים, ושהשם ישלח לנו משיח בקרוב. תודה רבה וכל הכבוד לכם.
מזמור לתודה. הריעו לאדוני כל הארץ, עבדו את אדוני בשמחה, בואו לפניו ברננה, דעו כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, הוא עשנו, ולא אנחנו עמו וצאן מרעיתו. בואו שעריו בתודה, חצרותיו בתהילה, הודו לו, ברכו שמו, כי טוב אדוני לעולם חסדו, והדור ודור אמונתו. עם ישראל חי וקיים.
The Kinus Mechanches Chabad is brought to you by the Menachem Education Foundation, committed to the mission of bringing the highest quality of Chabad Chinuch to children and supporting and uplifting Mechanchim and Mechanches worldwide. As founder and executive director, Rabbi Zalman Schneier works tirelessly to bring this mission to life. Thank you, Rabbi Zalman Schneier.
Good Yontiv, welcome. Bad HaKinnos, Kinnos Committee, my family, Mechanchos worldwide. On Tes Adar, Tes Adar Sheni, the Frierdiker Rebbe came to America. Rabbi Yitzchak Groner, who was a child at that time, recalled at our Farbrengen that the Frierdiker Rebbe told the Hasidim that he would not go to sleep unless they guaranteed him that within 72 hours, Tomchei Temimim in New York would be founded. Rabbi Yisrael Jacobson, who was at that Farbrengen, got up and said, it was 48 hours. For the Frierdiker Rebbe, there was a sense of tremendous urgency. A year and a half later, a group of Bacharim traveled across the world during the war to come to Montreal, and they came on Friday, Beis Cheshvan, Tavshin Beis. My grandfather, Rabbi Leib Kramer, was part of that group and later became the Menal of the Moises Chinuch in Montreal. They were greeted when they arrived by Rabbi Eli Eichel Simpson, who came with the shlichus from the Frierdiker Rebbe. And he said that we're going to open up a branch of Tomchei Temimim on Sunday morning. And Tomchei Temimim began on Sunday morning in Montreal. A few years later, Reb David Edelman was called into Yechidus to the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Frierdiker Rebbe asked him, and he said, I want to send you to Bridgeport, Connecticut, to open an Achei Temimim. It was Friday morning, and Reb David asked the Frierdiker Rebbe, Soll ich fahren for Shabbos? Should I travel before Shabbos? And the Frierdiker Rebbe answered, Es ist a gleiche Sach. It's a good idea. And there he left with his suitcases, Erev Shabbos, to Bridgeport, Connecticut. For Chinuch, there is no greater urgency and no greater need than doing it right now. The Rebbe would often forbring that the communists who persecuted the Frierdiker Rebbe didn't mind that he built shuls and mikvahs and taught Torah to adults. What they were really after the Frierdiker Rebbe was for the chinuch of the children. And the Frierdiker Rebbe was Moiser Nefesh B'Poil for the chinuch of our children. We recently learned in Ata Tetzaveh that today we have a different type of Mesiras Nefesh. You know, it's interesting. Like every year after COVID, we say that this year was the hardest year. People's attention spans are much shorter. Distractions are much larger. And even with our honorable teacher's salary, it's not picking up with the cost of living so much. And then you add all the distractions that come from within and without and for our administration and the board. It's so difficult. And yet, every single one of you, every single day, puts everything aside and walks into the classroom with such grace and compassion and really with a sense of purpose to educate Hashem's children. This is true Mesiras Nefesh. This is a tremendous devotion that each and every single one of you do for our children every single day. And for this, we are so grateful. The Rebbe would write many times that Chinuch is a sacred shlichus. And Ashrei Chelkam, how fortunate are we that we are in Chinuch. And it's something that we must cherish and we must celebrate. And here we are celebrating on this special day of Yud Beis Tammuz. The Kinus Mechanchos would not have been possible without a tremendous group of individuals that worked for so long. We thought we were going to start earlier and we're going to have everything under control and we'll be more relaxed and more calm. But Baruch Hashem, the Kinus has turned into an amazing event that is been blessed by Kadosh Baruch Hu. I want to thank Hashem, Hoidel Hashem Ki Tov Ki Leilam Chasdei, for giving us the opportunity to be able to host and produce the Kinus HaMechanchos. And I want to just take a moment and thank Mrs. Chana Rose, Miss Allison Feldman, Mrs. Eti Tolshevsky, Mrs. Sarah Zohar, Mrs. Mushki Lipsker, and Mazel Tov to Mrs. Bela Rubman on the birth of her daughter, and Mazel Tov also to Mrs. Mushka Cohen, who right from Sheva Brachos came straight in to work on the Kinnos. So thank you. Today, I was at the oil together with the Kinnos, and I met Rabbi Shmuel Lu. And I asked him about a story which he shared with me on a WhatsApp call when I was in Razak Ballroom and the music playing in the background, which I didn't really chop. So I asked him if he can please share that story. And I didn't know what I was getting into. And he shared with me the following story. Rabbi Safran, who was the principal, the headmaster in England, once came to Yechidus to the Rebbe, and he was in a mood of great despondency. It was hard. And the Rebbe told him, he said, I just celebrated my 70th birthday, and I took on 71 meistis. You're 42 years old. You should take on 42 projects. And Rabbi Lu told me that Rabbi Safran would have in his office a filing cabinet of every single one of these projects, and he would share with the Rebbe, the updates on these projects. So I look at Rabbi Lu, and just blurt it out. I said, that's very interesting, because I'm saying now Kapitel Mem Gimel. So he says, "Nu." So I went into the oil, and I got out. I made a little note about projects that we're undertaking. I'm not sure how long. I'm not sure when we're going to get to 42. But I'd like to announce at least a down payment of 20% of these projects. So here's my little note. And Abisha will help. I hope the staff will be okay. They don't know about this. Okay. About 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we launched the Zakelman standards for Chumash. Ever since then, people have been asking us, when you're making your curriculum. So Bez Hashem, together with Mr. Rosenfeld, we will be piloting and establishing the Zakelman standards for Chumash. And I want to thank Alan and Lori Zakelman for endowing this project. Baruch Hashem, we're hosting now the Kinus HaMechanchos, and the Eibishter blessed us that in addition to the Kinus HaMechanchos, we're also going to be hosting in 2 weeks together with the Chinuch office, the Kinus HaMechanchim. And I took on the pledge to Mirz Hashem to build the Kinus to over 250 Mechanchim, and it'll be B'Yasser Seis or B'Yasser Oz. I want to thank 2 families that have been very instrumental in this project. I want to thank, if I get the Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak and Batsheva Popak for being true partners in the Kinus. Sai, the men's Kinus, and Sai, the women's Kinus. They've been there from the beginning, together with the Bram family that have been real friends. Right before the Keynote, we went to print with Project Tamim, which is a social emotional learning curriculum. So while that has been in the works for a long time, I want to thank Mrs. Barfield, but we took upon ourselves that together with that curriculum, we will be doing classes for parents and PD for teachers. And I want to thank Dr. Shani and Ellie Virtualizer for really getting involved in this social emotional learning. I just want to take a moment and thank the virtualizers. They've been here today. They've come to the Keynote with the Gufam. They're going to be at the resource fair. They support the Keynote, and really, the virtualizers have been big pillars of Klal Yisrael. I just know a little bit of the chesed that they do, but they are tremendous, tremendous individuals, and we're so grateful that they're here with us at the Keynote. Okay. We recently launched Teach for Lubavitch with Mrs. Holtzman and Ms. Tachtel for women. So together with that, we will be launching a men's program, Kadima L'Chinuch, and I really want to thank the Gelman family, Tzvi and Simcha Gelman, for underwriting that project. Okay, 2 short projects. It's been in the works for a while, but we're going to do it. We're going to create a database of all resources for teachers and for substitutes. That's 2, resources for teachers and substitutes. And I want to thank Mrs. Mushka Lipsker for really coordinating that project. And finally, the Our Heritage program that was founded together with a dear friend, Lo Nishma, Shneur Zalman, Ben Gimpel Avram Hirsch. We will be raising the stipend from $2,500 to $3,000 per student that goes from public school to Chabad Day School. I want to thank the leadership of Alex and Sophie Sweka, together with some tremendous supporters, Modway, Tovia Greisman, and Mendel and Rayot Pinson, and many, many others of donors. So this is just the beginning, but Amir Hashem, we're going to do more and more for Chinuch. And it's really, when you look around the room and see the Mesiras Nefesh that each one of you have, how can we not do it? It's like a mirror, the image, looking back, just looking out on this room and seeing the tremendous dedication gives us the strength to be able to do what we need to do. So thank you, and may the Eibishter bench you with continued atzlacha and bracha in all.
Alle Unionen von Teiro und Mitzvah darf man sich tonse, if das Hawaii besimcha, mit der Simcha vetuv levo. Und wie der Rambam sagt, als Aveda gdelahi, soll sein als Simcha gdela bei Lernen Teiro mit keinem sein Mitzvahs. Bis wann nicht, als sagt, das darf man sich mit Stadel sein. Soll sein wie bei Doviden, was man bringt darauf die Linie von Doviden, was man Phases und man Charke. Es kommt darauf, echt in Rikudim Kipschute, wo der Pfarrer ist der Chechet in Darke HaChinuch. Aber das soll sein, dass der Rav ist Mare Ponim Yofis le Talmide. Und seht, dass der Talmid sollen sein, bevor nicht nur Machero. Und das wird durch Darke Nea, wie Darke Sholem und Besever Ponim Yofis, Kimidubar, was demelt lernen Kinder Teira besimcho, Mekai Mitzvahs besimcho. Sie peilen nechet, Reisher, Levavis, Albonim, Azeba, Ovis, wie Amois, wie Mois, so lechet, als sie werden. Und sie wird besimcho, echet, Boelom, der Farbe der Reis von Teira, das Misgabe, auf den Cheshech von Cheshech Agolus, bis echet auf den Cheshech, was a Cheshech Yechasse Horet, war Roffel Juni, worin sie peilen auf die Eltern gehen nach Reis in Welt. Und Monnen bei der Welt haben soll sich fühlen wie Teiro ist. Dafke bedarke Neim und bedarke Scholem. Und das ist der einzige Weg, das durchführen in der Neifin Shal Kayomo. Nie durch der Chas wie Scholem, Botteln, das Battel werden, die schrecken sich vor Goyigkeit. Bis das bringt Teche zu schrecken sich vor Goyim und am steht mir Yad Roma mit dem Tekev von Teiro Mitzvah von Niedigkeit und mir redet noch mit demselben Tekev Afal Pi, wo das darf angetan werden, bedarke nehmen und es ist Scholem is men demot matzliach a keach meisov higid laame. Kedei los es mehem nachlas geim, a sie seinen Meschel, und die Welt fühlt sich, wie sie kommt es al pi Idigkeit. Wo das der keach meisov is sich zerezach, bim juchot wegen Eretz Yisrael. Aber la de Shem Haaretz zum Leo Haaretz, wa ahea idio Eretz Yisrael. Gleich noch der Ruf sagt ein Tevel, wie Jeshe, wo die ganze Welt in das Keach Meiso, und demult ist mir nechet Matzliach, als soll sein Scholim Boela. Allah es kame bekame, wenn Asati Scholim Boorez, wa Hascholo Tchilas HaVeda, in das Koomur, aufstellen dem Zivis Hashem, Zivis El Scholim, jüdische Kinder, was lernen Teir und seine Mekayem Mitzvahs gleich, wie sie higile Chinuch und gleich mit dem Maschele Dabe und tun das mit der Simcha und wie sie Mechanech sie also soll sein nicht Jelchu, Mechail el Choil nicht Ruhe und Lalis mit Darga le Darga in einem Neffen von Hisbonenes und voneinander fragen sich. Komur leil der Sum Moremenechen, weil der sei kehre schon meim und danach all der sei ich bin geht zum Marabu ma Hisbonenes, im Marabu Masech und Magodlu Masech, wo das sich beiker in Ores bechol zwo stellt mir nur der Zivis Hashem mit der Chnucha Simcha וטוב לבו.
עודד כהן, מגדול חינוך בישראל. אני צריך להישאר בתפקיד, ומה אני צריך לעשות למען ילדי ישראל? האם אני צריך להישאר בתפקיד?
האם להישאר, כן. צריך להישאר, אבל להישאר ליד דעתו, כי אם להסי ביסר איזה ביסר עוז.
תודה רבה. אתה מוכר גם לאשתי.
זה בשביל האישה ובשביל כל המשפחה.
תודה רבה.
ויש בנוחס הנפש שלו, ותוכל לעשות יותר בשביל חינוך בני ישראל. שכחים כל הטוב לבו.
תודה רבה.
Wie mir selbst erhechtet, als gleich die Meister und Gejula, ich gewinn verbunden der Rieke Schwerkerte gewinn. Nicht als verlernen Teire mit gar Erwachsenen, nur verlernen Teire mit kleinen Kindern, und wie mir selbst erhechtet, als in dem Maimer HaYordua, von Kimu und Kibla Aleim HaYehudim, wo der Baal HaGeula hat ihm gesagt, in Purim Kotten, was sie gewähnt demselben Jahr, aber Vater Meister und Gejula, und was hat damals hat sich schon angehend der Achone zu der Meister und der Gejula, und dort ist madgisch und unterstreicht, und mehrere Mal den Minyan von Ipi, Eile, Vienkin, Yisadeto Eis, Lahash bis Evo Misnakeim, am darf sich hereinwerfen und dann mit Messias Nefesh, a Seelin wie Jenkim soll sein, Yisadeto Eis, und wer sagte, Medisch ein Eis, Elo Teiro, ve Adraba, das ist echt a Hachone, und a Zugreitung und a Mittel, aber soll mir wattel sein, die Gseres und die Schwerkeiten bei einer Gehe, zu nimmer der Teire wie Kiemitz wie sehr, was du da echt bei Erwachsenen, die Gseres, was nehmen sich mit Zad Ehe und Misnaki. Und wie mir selbst sich echt bei einer Gehe zu den Piules von Bala Gejula, noch der Gejula, befragt, wenn gekommen, in der Medine ist gewöhnlich hele Reis alle Märchen und mit den größten Sturm dem Ingen von Chinuch mit Pi Eili wie Jenkim.
Yafa Kanan, please go to the babysitting room. Yafa Kanan, please go to the babysitting room. Please continue to enjoy your main course quietly as we resume the program.
The video already happened? First the video and then? Just start? Okay. There is such a power in this room right now. Every single Yid has the power to bless another. Imagine receiving a bracha in a room where hundreds of Yidden are benching each other simultaneously. So let's raise our cups and turn to the person sitting next to you and bless them from our hearts for all of the brachais. Brachais for shidduchim for all those who need. Brachais for children for all those who are waiting. Physical, mental, and emotional health for ourselves and our loved ones. Refuah shalema for all those who need. And right here, I want to say that there's someone who I just found out was in a car accident. His name is Menachem Mendel Ben Fega. Let's all, you just say, Refuah Shalema Min Hashemayim LeMenachem Mendel Ben Fega Ulechol Chalei Amay Yisrael. For long life, for health, parnasa and abundance, joy and bitachon in our everyday life, being in tune with Hashem's will and seeing success in our shluchos. And of course, for the safety of our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael and the revelation of Mashiach right now. Please take this moment to bench those sitting next to you. L'chaim. Tell me when to resume. Right now? Continue? Okay. L'chaim, l'chaim. Mrs. Sarah Pinson is one of the founders and current head of the school Keren Menachem in Nice, France. This is actually incredible. Her family has been on shluchos for 6 generations, beginning with her grandparents who were shluchim of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and now there are great-grandchildren being born on shluchos, Baruch Hashem. Sarah grew up in the Bronx and in 1976 moved to Nice, France. Soon after arriving, she, along with some friends, founded Keren Menachem, embarking on her shluchos in Chinuch. Keren Menachem has grown into a thriving mosad of 350 children from ages 2 to 15. Sarah is passionate about teaching every child through Chinuch with joy. We are honored to hear from Mrs. Sarah Pinson.
I can't see you, so I hope it's going to work. Okay. Let's ask a question to start. Ladies, did you like school as a child? Personally, I'm sorry to say that I hated school. I found the lessons very boring and the teachers very unfair. And very young, I made acquaintance very often with the principal's office. And the years went by and I got into high school. It was a high school of my parents' choice, which I didn't appreciate too much. And besides all the other complaints that I had from the years before, I was now in a strange place where I knew nobody. So I wanted out, which was quite normal. And I didn't stop saying it on top of my lungs to anybody who was willing to hear me. I even said it to the Rebbe on Yechidus when my father very desperately took me into Yechidus when I was in 10th grade. During that Yechidus, I got two very big life lessons from the Rebbe. First of all, the Rebbe told me, you're in the middle of high school, you can't stop in the middle. You can never stop in the middle of something. You have to go till the end. That was lesson number one. Lesson number two came when I protested and I said, but no, I don't want to stay. And the Rebbe said, I know you don't want to, but that is what you're going to do. And that is a very big lesson. The lesson here is that in life, we don't always want to do things, but that does not mean that we have the choice not to do it. It's a very strong lesson, but let's go back to the original subject. How did I go from a student that hated school to a person who started a school that we call in French, Kerem Menachem, l'école qui j'aime. It rhymes in French. Thank you for the poetry lesson today. And it means the school that I love. So how did that happen? It was 4 months before my 17th birthday, and I was already in 12th grade. And in my head, I said, now the Rebbe is going to let me leave. So I wrote a letter to the Rebbe. I put my whole heart and my whole soul into that letter. But I did not get an answer. The answer came 4 months later. There's a lot of personal things in the letter. It's a long letter for somebody who was almost just turning 17 with a few paragraphs in it. But I will just stop and share with you the last paragraph of that letter. Yeshno challenge. The Rebbe wrote in English the word challenge. Yeshno challenge mukhan b'shvil b'not m'bnei Yisrael hadomot la. There is a prepared challenge for Jewish girls like her. Asher mukhrach litgaber alav. That must be overcome. Vehu, and it is. Hachesronot shemaskira b'nogea la'avira ha'seminarim u'batei ha'sefer bichlal. The faults that she mentions in the atmosphere that there are in seminaries, in schools in general, efshari litaknan. It is possible to correct it. Aval, but, rak al yedei elu shehergishu ba'atzman upaga bahen hachisaron. It can only be corrected by those who felt it and were touched, but what they felt was missing. Ella, but, only. Shekechol heseg tov, like all other good accomplishments, drusha lazeh hachanat atzmo, must come with personal preparation. At kidei yagia bazeh, not only just preparing yourself, but making an effort that will fatigue you. Kavanati, my intention is, lirchosh yediot maspikot b'mikzoot hanilmadim b'seminarim, to acquire the necessary knowledge in the subjects that are taught in seminary. Mumchiyut b'pedagogia, to become an expert in pedagogy. Hachlata tikifa, and to have a firm decision. Lo lihitrashem, not to get impressed. B'im lo yiru haperot tekefu miyad. If you do not see the results immediately. V'lo livosh mipnei hamal'igim, do not have fear from those, not be ashamed from those who make me fun. Ula'acharei zeh, and after such a preparation, lahatchil lishanot ha'avira, to start changing the whole atmosphere. Ubitlahavut, and with enthusiasm, ubemesirat nefesh. And the Rebbe finishes, ubivadai, and certainly, shehashem yitbarech yatzliach, that the Eibishter will give you hatzlacha. What a message, wow. So the Rebbe basically said, you don't like the system, No problem. Go and change it. If you felt that something was wrong, you are the person who can change it because you know what it's all about. And if you are going to take on this mission, this is going to be the mission of your life. So how are we going to change the system? The Rebbe first said the first thing you're going to do is learn to be an expert in how to teach. You're not going to become a teacher because that's what good Jewish girls do. A woman once said in my sukkah, I won't mention names, a good Jewish girl goes to high school, then she goes to seminary, and then she works as a teacher, as if by magic she went through the system and she became a teacher. It doesn't happen that way. It would be nice if it did, but it doesn't. You have to be a teacher that's passionate. You have to be a teacher that's ready to do Mesiras Nefesh. You have to be a teacher that's going to give this passion to your students. And the Rebbe is very clear. This is not an easy path. You do not see results right away. There might be people who might make fun of you, but you have to be strong. And you have to be ready to have the fatigue of being strong. Practically speaking, how does this work? So recently, a grandson of mine said to me that he doesn't like school and he doesn't want to go to school. I said, great, that's what Bubba has to talk about next week. So let's hear what you have to say about it. So he said, well, I want a school where I can do what I want. You're laughing, but he is right. How many times have somebody told us the pasuk, Chanoch lanar al pi darko. You have to educate a child in his way. And there's many, many interpretations and explanations on this pasuk. But let's take it in a new way. There is much positive energy in every single child. Every child has positive energy. He doesn't always use it positively, but it's there. And it is our role as educators to look and find what that child is and turn it into a learning experience. We have to think of learning from the child's point of view. I come from a place where the children that we have in our school come from families that know nothing about Torah learning. Their parents don't know how to read Hebrew. Nobody can help them, and nobody knows the importance of Jewish studies. So when a young child comes to the first day that he's going to learn Chumash, it's a very big challenge. He doesn't understand one word of Hebrew. The only time he sees Hebrew is in school. Every word is a challenge. You think he's going to sit and say the pasuk like, you do in traditional schools. It's not going to happen. So here we are with children that are 6 and 7 years old. We're in front of one of their first psukim. We're in pasuk beis, Perek Aleph Chumash Bereishis, and this is what I'm doing. V'ha'aretz hayta tohu vavohu v'choshech. Everybody's doing it with me. Al pnei tehom v'ruach alei. Elokim merachefet al pnei. And then I'm there. What am I going to do for hamayim? And a little kid goes to me like this. This is going to be the mayim. And then I know I did it. Because they are not learning a pasuk, they are living the pasuk. Not only because they know what the pasuk means, but because their whole body is living that pasuk. And then I am taking consideration that I am teaching 6 and 7-year-olds that can't sit still. It's even worse than these hundreds of women who just had to sit through I don't know how many workshops and speeches. And these are kids that cannot. But I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing that they can move. I'm going to use the fact that they have to move into a learning experience. And let's go up to my middle school. We have a French word that says blasé. I think they use it in English also. Our middle school students are blasé about Jewish studies. It's boring, it's a burden. So I walk into my Navi class and I tell them that this year we are doing a new subject in Hebrew studies. We are learning theater. That's another one of my passions. We're going to learn how to write plays, and we do. And every single parak of Navi becomes a play. And they do all kinds of plays, comedies, and mimes, and dialogues, and monologues, anything you want. But they learn the text and the mefarshim because that's how they're going to know how to write their play. If not, they're not going to know. See this book? It was written this year by a 13-year-old student of mine. Every single one of my 13-year-old students wrote a book this year of 12 chapters on the life of David HaMelech. We did not do tests. We did not do traditional assessments. We wrote chapters in our book. And we wrote them in modern language. And it was an amazing experience, very hard for me, because reading over all these books and correcting them and whatever was quite a work. But it was a passionate work on Navi this year. Children love pictures, you know that? So that when we're going to approach a new subject in halacha, we're going to dress up our children. We have cases and cases of costumes in our school. We're going to dress them up, and they're going to act out the halachas, and we're going to take pictures of them. And then we're going to blow up the pictures, and then the kids are going to write the captions, and then we're going to put them in all the hallways of our school, and everybody's going to stop because you want to see the picture of your brother, your sister, your friend. And then what do you see? What they wrote underneath it. And then for 2 weeks, these pictures are around, and by the end of 2 weeks, adults, children, everybody has learned all the halachas I wanted to teach, and they're loving it. Or what about a treasure hunt? We used a treasure hunt in middle school to learn the Megillah of Esther, to learn the words of the Megillah. We had all our middle school students running around the halls of school with Megillahs in their hands, because it was in the text of the Megillah that was the clues and the answers. And one of the most challenging students of my life as a principal, at the end I had to ask him to leave school because he beat up a teacher, whatever it was. But one of these most challenging students of my life came into my office during the treasure hunt, and he banged on my table and said, "Madame Pinson, this is great. I'm having a blast." And I felt like telling him, and you're learning. Can you imagine? You are learning, of all people. So that is a very important point. What I want to say is that at this time of the year, I often read on websites how there was such a school that gave a fun trip to their students because they learned so much Mishnayos, or they learned so much Tanya. I don't know what they learned there. But I don't think that fun is something that you have after you learned. I think fun is part of learning. If a child loves to learn when he is small, we can hope that he will want to learn when he's older. And this is something that we have to start with when they're very young. But there are other points also. But at first I want to talk to you about a book that is a book that's written in French, so I can't recommend it to you all. But it's a book that we give to students, but we also give it to teachers because it says a lot about teaching. It's about a little boy. He's about 7 or 8, and he's a terrible student. He still does not know how to read, write, or count. Now, in French public schools, which he goes to, there is no school on Wednesdays. But his mom works, and she's a single mom. So he's alone in the house with a key every Wednesday. One Wednesday, he decides that he wants to bake a cake. But he doesn't know how to bake a cake. So he has an idea. He's going to go to the library and get a book that explains to him how to make a cake. He doesn't know how to read, but he's going to get a book. And he goes to the library. He asks the librarian. She helps him. She gives him a book. He takes it home. And he breaks his head till he finds one recipe that he understands. And then he measures. And he makes his cake. And he cooks it. And he takes it out. Okay. And it becomes a hobby. Every Wednesday, he goes to the library, takes out a book, and makes another cake. And in the meantime, he's learning how to measure. He's learning how to add. He's learning how to go to the store to buy the ingredients. And he's learning how to read. Then his friend comes over and tastes the cake. And he says, "Wow, that's good. You should sell it. You'll make money." So he has to sell the cakes. But to sell a cake, you have to make a bigger one. So he has to do multiplications and divisions. And then he has to cut the cake into the right sizes. He's doing fractions. At the end of the year, he's the first one of the class. He knows how to read, write, and count. How did that happen? The teacher was breaking her head how to get him to learn. Because he learned it through his passion. That was something that he liked to do. And once we found what he liked to do, we found the key to his heart. We found what was going to make him learn. There are other aspects that we must mention. There's what we call the personal touch. In the beginning of my career as a principal, a mother of the school came to me and shared with me the memories of her legendary principal of the school that she went to in Paris. Her principal would stand at the doorway of the school in the morning and greet every one of her hundreds of students personally with their name. This parent was challenging me, and believe me, I took it very seriously. I still do it. It's very important. It's very important that we make our students feel that they are somebody for us. The chairperson just spoke about the teacher that gave her a hug. When you are greeting a child personally and you're noticing that they have new glasses, new shoes, that they were absent and that you missed them yesterday, they know they count for you. And this is coming from a student that when she was in high school would sneak out of what she considered her very boring Tehillim class and go to the attic of the high school to read Tolstoy. What bothered me, I got my punishment, don't worry. My principal took care of that one. But what really bothered me in this story is how long it took for someone to notice that I wasn't in class and to find out that I was in the attic. Students need to feel that we count, that we're people, we're not just names on lists. We're real people that have a story. And if you don't know the story of your students, you can't really take care of them. Next thing is I think you have to remember to never be predictable. You must always surprise your students. My husband makes fun of me all the time, but since the Rebbe told me not to get nervous about people make fun of me, so I hold out. I am teaching the same subject for over 40 years, and every year I start over and I plan my lessons. And he said, but you taught it last year, and the year before, and the year before. What are you preparing already? I said, but it's not the same students. It's not the same children. We cannot teach it the same way. What's in these students is not the same thing that was in the other students last year, and so it can't be taught in the same way. That is the story. You cannot just pick out a lesson sheet and do it because you did it last year. That doesn't work. There used to be a very famous teacher in our school, in our middle school, a French teacher, that the kids used to pass the book reports from one year to the other, and he never knew that he was reading the same book report from the year before. That is bad. That is really bad. Okay, but it wasn't a Kurdish teacher, so okay, we're not going to say it. Okay. And then I'm going to say something that might surprise you, but I really feel this very strongly, is that you should not answer questions. Don't get nervous, I'll explain to you. When a child asks you a question, you should say, wow, that's such a good question. So tell me, what do you think? Why did he do it? Don't give answers. Prove to the children that they can find the answers. When children will be involved in the learning process, they can get passionate. When they realize that they can find the answers, that they are capable of learning, then they can love to do it. They cannot be passive audience. They cannot be a passive audience. This is the worst thing for me to teach to talk to people who are just sitting there listening to me. You have to be able to ask questions and challenge, and to know that we're going to all be in this together to find the answers. And when you're going to work so hard to make your students passionate, I can guarantee you that each one of you will become a passionate, joyous, enthusiastic teacher that is capable of the Mesiras Nefesh that the Rebbe talks about. And that I sincerely hope that with all our passion, we will be zecha to the end of the words that the Rebbe writes at the end of the letter, ubivadai, and certainly, Hashem yitbarech yatzliach, Hashem will give us all etzlacha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Pinson. We all want to go to your school as students and as teachers. In this room, we have new teachers, veteran educators, and everyone in between. In truth, each of you deserves to be honored, and that is why you are here. First, though, we'd like to especially recognize the veteran educators. The mechanchais who chose Chinuch as their shlichus, or sometimes Chinuch chose them as their shlichus, but they continue to choose it again every day for decades. The mechanchais who are undaunted by the changing times and adapt to new generations and new challenges. without diminishing their steadfast devotion to what is right and true. The Mechanchais whose life experience, wisdom, and tried and true connection to Hashem and to the Rebbe serve as an anchor for the students in their care. Representing all veteran Mechanchais in this room and beyond, the Kines Mechanchais Chabad would like to present the Honorary Educator Award to Mrs. Batsheva Derin. Mrs. Derin became the principal of Yeshiva Schools of Pittsburgh in 1981 when the Rebbe appointed her to fill the shoes of her legendary mother-in-law. A young mother at the time, Mrs. Derin was quite surprised, but the Rebbe's brachas to her at that time, and you could watch it, it's on video, actually gave me kayach many times personally in my chinuch shluchas. Mrs. Derin rose to the occasion, devotedly nurturing generations of students at yeshiva schools. I was privileged to join a group of educators going to your school for a school observation, and I remember how you led us through the hallways to visit the different classrooms, and despite the fact that you were surrounded by a retinue of educators and principals from all over the world, your only focus was your students, and as you walked down the hallways, teenagers opening and closing their lockers, you stopped, you greeted them with the brightest smile. The whole hallway was filled with light. The girls returned your smile. It was so sincere. That was a true example of chinuch with joy, and I'll never forget it. Furthermore, Mrs. Derin became a beacon of guidance, not only to students, but to teachers as well. First through her staff, whom she lovingly tended at yeshiva, and they'll attest to her positive guidance and loving touch. And then as a member of the Vad HaKinnis of the Kines Mechanchais Chabad, where she puts her heart into uplifting, empowering, and elevating Mechanchais every year. Mrs. Derin thought that she was being called up today to give an award, but please come up. To Mrs. Derin and to all of our cherished veteran Mechanchais, we would like to bench you with long, healthy years and with ever-increasing koyach and vitality for your shlichus. To see the peres of your tireless dedication to chinuch and the brachais that it brings, and to continue to bring out the best in all of us educators, for we too are your students.
I recently, when Hannah called me, my job, my role today is to honor all the young teachers, 0 through 3 years. You know, I feel like going shopping for little kids, but it says 0 through 3 years from when you're starting chinuch, the chinuch shlichus, for the past 3 years, or maybe starting now. Recently, a teacher, a veteran teacher, was sharing a story with me, which I'm looking around this room full of beautiful young mechanchos, and this story can be your story 30 years from now. So this teacher is saying that she met a lady, went somewhere shopping, she met a lady, she remembers she was a student. Now this student is 45 years old, and unfortunately, she's full of resentment for the system that she went through. She remembers when her family was very poor, and one time she was sent home to change her uniform skirt, and says, I didn't even know that I didn't have another skirt. And she went on, and then she continued. She's telling this teacher, you saved my life. And this teacher was telling me the story, like she looked at her puzzle, And as she's sharing her story with her appreciation to her, she's digging into her purse, pulling out a note. And she said, when we were in 11th grade, by the end of the year, as a mechanechet, you handed each one of us a personal written note by you, our mechanechet, to us. I kept this note in my purse until today, and here it is, 30 years or more later. You know, when we think of these stories, actually, this teacher told me I was horrified to think I was 22, maybe 23 years old when I started teaching, and I was a mechanechet, and I did not remember the story, but I was horrified to think that what could I have write as such a young, inexperienced 22-year-old to my high school student. But it's one story that definitely can be your story in the years to come. You know, there's another story that I just recently heard too, preparing here. It was about the Rogachover, that he was known from the age of 9 to be called the Gaon, the Rogachover. The Rebbe mentioned him a lot in the Sichos, in the learning. He was a Gaon. And he was saying that he had a very hard time sitting in a classroom as a young child, to an extent that he left the classroom in the middle of the big Rogachover that the world learning his Torah, left the classroom to climb on a tree outside in the yard, and he continued to learn on the tree while he was on the tree. What do you think his teacher did? I know it was a young teacher, went outside, climbed the tree with him, and continued teaching him there. The Rogachover, as expressing appreciation to his Melamed, was saying that he doesn't know that if not for this Melamed that had the understanding of his needs and patience to climb the tree and teach him on the tree, he doesn't know if he would have the same love of Torah learning that he owned as the Rogachover that we all know, the Ilui from Rogachover. I was actually curious. I wanted to get credit to find who was his teacher. I couldn't find. I did find out that few of his teachers, Rabbi Soloveitchik was one of his teachers, Rabbi Diskin was one of his teachers, but it was later on. By the time the Rogachover was bar mitzvah, none of the teachers were able to teach him, I don't think it's because he was climbing on the trees, only because he was such a genius, he couldn't fit into a regular classroom. At that point, his father continued to teach him. But thinking about the Rogachover and thinking what a giant he was, and he contributed a big part of it to his Melamed that climbed the tree after him, rather than scold him, etc., to learn with him. Somebody asked me, so what, I was thinking as I was reading the story, what happened with the rest of the class? That's a separate for Brangen. It couldn't be a better day to celebrate Mesiras Nefesh to Chinuch, no better Yom Skula than today, Yud Beis Tammuz Chag HaGeula. I'm certain that we all will choose today's Mesiras Nefesh to Chinuch over the underground life-risking Torah learning that the Frierdiker Rebbe and his generation. As mechanchos, we are given the ability, the opportunity to help each child, to bring them to their own personal geula, to collectively would lead us all to the ultimate geula. I would like to conclude sharing few letters from the Rebbe that he wrote for different mechanchim at different stages. Now, each one of these part could be a whole farbrengen, and in consideration of time, I would only mention it in short. In one, oh, it's actually written here. But I'm not even going through all of the thing, but in the first one, the Rebbe was quoting to a mechanech about how Baal Shem Tov loved each child of Bnei Yisrael, was so dear for him, and like a child that was born to an older parent at an older age. And from this, the Rebbe said, Muvan Godel HaSiyua, we can understand the greatness of the help שמשפיעים לכל אחד השייך לענייני חינוך. How much brachos can be poured upon individuals that invest themselves in chinuch. In the second letter, it's very nice, the Rebbe writes, אין לך עבודה קדושה ונעימה יותר מזה. There's no greater, holy, pleasant work than this avodah of avodas hachinuch. After listening to Mrs. Pinson, it's very clear it could be avodah ne'ima, a very pleasant work, challenging. And it's caused such great nachat ruach above, שמזה מובן גם שכרו של הגורם נחת רוח זה. From here we understand the reward for the one who caused the Eibishter so much nachas ruach. The third letter, the Rebbe is answering ladies that the doctors was suggested, she was trying to conceive, she couldn't have children, and the doctors suggested maybe she's working too hard and she should stop working. And the Rebbe said, well, you have to take care of yourself. One of the things that can help awakens Hashem's mercy on you for your own, to be blessed with Zara Chaya V'Kayama, is continue and teach Jewish children. As it says, Harei ze sgula leoladat banim gam begashmius. We know that our students are our children, and the Rebbe said, this is a sgula to continue and teach while you're taking care of yourself. It's a sgula to have children, biological children. And then we can read it. I want to conclude what the Rebbe told me when I started, and I shared it many times. The reason I feel it's so important to share it, because the Rebbe meant it for each and every one of you, each and every one of us. When I took upon the responsibility of the leadership, being a principal in yeshiva school, at that time, it came, like Hannah mentioned, it came upon me. It wasn't the stage of my life that I thought I would become a principal. I had 8 babies at home. So I wrote to the Rebbes, and I'm asking, the Rebbe said, not questioning, but I asked for a bracha to be able to have the koyach and the yecholet, the strengths and the ability to take care of my children at home and my children in school. And 2 days later, a zettel came in the mail, no fax then yet, where the Rebbe was saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baal HaKoach uBaal HaYecholet uBilti Baal Gvul. The Eibishter is the one that owns all the strengths, he owns all the ability, and he is unlimited. V'chol ha'moisif moisifim lo. And whoever adds and go above and beyond, the Eibishter will go above and beyond for them. And I'm thinking about it many, many, many times. We can never pretend that we go with our own koiches, because how can we do it? I see mothers, teachers are here holding babies, running, calling them. There's no way it can be done as well as you do it al piteva. But with the koiches of the Eibishter, through the Rebbe, with the Rebbe's brachos, your avodah is, the sky is the limit. There's so much you can do. And don't underestimate. Experience is important, but don't underestimate the young relatable. The girls now are looking for you, ladies, relatable, energetic young ladies to take Chabad future to lead us to Mashiach. Be'atzlacha and Mazel Tov for those of you who are starting. We're asking now, please, if anybody that's starting to teach or started in the last 3 years, please rise so we can see you, we can wish you well. And Menachem Foundation want to hand you your award. Please stay standing. Please stay standing so they can actually see you and reach you. I know there's more, yeah. Please stay standing so Hannah and her crew can find you and wish you all the best and thank you for who you are. Thank you, thank you.
Okay? The babysitting is over, so if you have a baby in the babysitting room, please go collect your child. Thank you so much, Chaviva. We all felt that energy in the room. That was amazing. Thank you. And you got us on our feet. Rabbi Naftali Roth tells that the Rebbe once sent a shliach overseas to check up on a particular school and then report back. The Rebbe did not tell him to test the students or to speak to the teachers or to speak to the Anhala. The Rebbe asked him to report back about one thing and one thing only. Are the children smiling? After tonight, and Amir Tashem, as we continue learning and growing throughout this Keynote, we will all be smiling, and by osmosis, so will our students, when we bring this inspiration back to them. May we all have the koyach to take the powerful messages of tonight and feel the joy and the passion in our shluchos. And may we very soon complete our ultimate shluchos and be able to walk hand in hand with our precious students to greet Mashiach now. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank the Menachem Education Foundation for all those involved in putting together this beautiful Keynote. Please remember to bench. Tonight is Yud Beis Tammuz. It's an auspicious time to farbring. There's going to be 2 incredible farbringans going on, and we'll see you there. L'chaim. Okay. Right outside, there are sweaters for all those who ordered. They're going to be still available till 10:15. There's also a gift as you exit. Please be sure to take one.
Please remember Birchas Hamazon. The farbringans are about to begin.